And welcome back. AARP released a groundbreaking policy guide filled with recommendations to help city officials address vital issues that older residents actually face. Now, the policy book underscores the New York City Department for the Aging receives less than 1% of the city's budget when 20% of New York City residents are age 65 and older. Joining us now and sharing more details, we're pleased to have the state director of the AARP New York State, Beth Finkel. And Beth, glad to have you with us. And as we look at this, it gives us a more in-depth look, as we say, at some of the issues that the community's older residents, I should say, actually face.
Exactly right. We wanted to look at 50 plus and how they're feeling about living in New York right now. And we have surveyed them repeatedly. And from what we've heard from them and from what our policy experts have hammered out, we came up with a blueprint for action for 50 plus. So this is really the bigger line here is really, what do 50 plus deserve? And I would say that very strongly, because after all, who built this city? It was the 50 plus. It is continuing to be the 50 plus. They are, a strong workforce here in New York, and supporting families and communities and paying their taxes, etc. And second of all, they are the biggest voting bloc. Every election for the last God knows how many years has been decided by the 50 plus. On big election years and on off election years, who goes to the polls? It's the 50 plus. And finally, when you think about civic engagement, who's the human capital that drives all of our not-for-profits? Who's in there volunteering all the time? At the Y's, at community houses, at churches, at synagogues, etc.
So when we talk about the 50 plus, you know that they're very integral to New York State. You developed this book, you took a look at some of the things that residents need and want to see. Give us a little insight as to what you're able to uncover.
I think the number one is ageism, and how ageism is it permeates every part of our society. And we have to once and for all say, enough is enough. We're not going to tolerate ageism anymore. And you see it in TV commercials, you see it in people's offhanded comments, and you particularly see it in the workplace and age discrimination in the workplace. New York City passed 5 really nice age discrimination bills last year. We need to take that a step further. We need to see how they are actually regulated, how they come into how they actually work. And then the second part of that is we need to look again systemically. AARP believes we need a deputy mayor for aging. As you said, 65 plus make up 20% of New York City's population. And we need someone tying together all the different departments that just literally don't talk to each other enough about what the 50 plus need and what they deserve. And that's what we're hoping for. On top of that, when we look at ageism, we also feel like just the name, the New York City Department for the Aging. I mean, I ask you, is that like, a handy dandy title that you just can't wait to pick up the phone or look up online? So we need to bring that name into the 21st century, because that's a really archaic name.
Yeah, and there's a lot of connotation that goes with that. So people don't necessarily feel so comfortable picking up the phone and calling the helpline. I know if I did, I wouldn't quite want to do that myself. Call the Department of the Aging. I think that speaks to how I would feel. Yeah. So, but looking at this demographic of people 50 plus, looking at those who are 65 and up in New York State, in terms of laws and in terms of policies and procedures. Talk to me about really having that voice, because you talk about having somebody in that office, but many times when you're trying to articulate that voice, you become voiceless, because it seems as though that nobody's listening when it comes to the issues that are so prevalent to this demographic.
I think that's true. And I just want to be clear. So this book, this Blueprint for Action, is actually New York City policy. And I'm glad you brought up the state piece, because we are fastly working to pull together the same book for the state level. So I'm going to have a whole other slew of policy recommendations. I hope you'll have me back to talk about that
Absolutely.
one day. But on this one, we're also looking at transportation. You know, I don't have to tell you in the Bronx how difficult transportation is, all those elevated train stations, how many of them have escalators or have elevators, and what does that mean, not just to the 50 plus, but also to the disabled, right? How are they supposed to access our transit system? It doesn't seem quite right. And also, it's particularly harmful in communities of color where they are even more likely to not have stations that have access. So that's another area. Affordable housing. Over 50% of the people that we surveyed in New York City are concerned about affordable housing, and we know it, and I know you must hear it all the time on your show. We're also very concerned about livability, just in general livability in our communities, and we're very concerned about the economy. Over 90% of the people we surveyed that are 50 plus in New York have told us that they are worried of being able to save for their retirement. 90%. I mean, that's a staggering number.
Yeah. And when you hear those numbers, obviously a lot of concern because one wants to know, how am I going to make it? How am I going to be able to navigate it in the future? The question is, what kind of response have you received since putting this information out?
Well, I think we've gotten quite a bit. We're setting up meetings with all of the city council members. We've already sent them the book. We've sent it to the mayor's office, sent it to Adrian Adams. So the next step is to sit down one-on-one, go through it, get some feedback. You know, advocacy is a two-way process. It's not just AARP saying, here's what we want, give it to us. It's sitting down and saying, okay, here's what we're thinking. What do you think? What can we get done? What can we get done in the immediate? What can we get done, on a staggered scale? But the bottom line is what the 50 plus New Yorkers deserve. We need to keep them here in New York. A lot of New Yorkers have been leaving. We know that the numbers are big. We've already lost a congressional seat in New York State. We need to keep them here. We need to keep their pensions here. We need to keep their Social Security here. Otherwise, they will take it to other states that I would rather not name on this show.
Yeah, 32% more of New Yorkers who have moved out since last year. Normally, there's a rate of people who actually leave, and we see 32% more in the last year of people who are actually exiting New York. A lot of people say that could be attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, but give me a quick estimation from your perspective as to how COVID-19 has really impacted the demographic of 50 plus and moving forward.
Well, it certainly affected them, number one, in employment. Number two, we didn't even talk about broadband, right? We didn't talk about how people have access to the internet in these times. How do you live without it, both for your children and your grandchildren and for your work and for your continuing education? And again, particularly affecting communities of color. So AARP has been working really hard on that. You may know Governor Hochul just put a lot more money into the budget, $1 billion to help with internet access. So we are really pleased about that. Nursing homes, long-term care facilities. We're very worried about that. We had great laws passed last year at the state level, and Governor Hochul signed them. We were very pleased, but the problem now is that they're saying because of COVID, they're not going to put them into effect. Well, we need staffing ratios. We need protection for our nursing home residents. 15,000 New Yorkers died during COVID in nursing homes in the past 2 years. We can't tolerate that. This is not the time to roll back. So we also need more money in oversight in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. New York State long-term care for people to go into nursing homes and long-term care facilities and advocate for people who might not be getting the treatment that they need, might not be getting fed, might not be getting moved or changed, or all of those other, activities of daily living that put people in jeopardy. And when your family and friends can't come to visit you, who's looking out for you? Who's speaking up for you? So we really need more money in for long-term care ombudsman. And I'm sorry to say I didn't see it in the budget announced yesterday from the state. We got to change that. We cannot tolerate that. We got a lot of money coming into New York. The governor told us that. Let's take care of long-term care ombudsman.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see how things work out. Of course, the governor releasing her information, and certainly that's a lot to unpack and can't unpack it here in this segment, but got to bring you back when we talk a little bit more about the state and also services as well. But Beth, thank you so much for sharing with us, and great work with those who are in the 50 plus category.
Thank you, Darren. Really a pleasure. Thank you for letting us share this information.
Glad to, glad to. Well, want to let you know if you want more information, please go ahead and visit their website at aarp.org, and then also on social media at AARPNY. We encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We still got more show coming up. Open continues right after this.